All right, for my project, we're going to be talking about the Crimean War. So first, before the Crimean War, we have to talk about Russia's expansion. Kind of started with how the Ottoman Empire started to weaken during the 19th century. The Ottoman Empire suffered a number of existential challenges, such as the Serbian Revolution, and this led the Ottoman Empire to steadily weaken during the 19th century. The Russian Empire intended to take advantage of this weakening by expanding their territory southward. Britain and France wanted to prevent this, as Britain wanted to maintain its trade route with India through the Ottoman Empire, and France itself wanted to establish itself as still a noble European power with its military might. So some of the causes, I think one of the main causes in this would be Napoleon III. Napoleon wanted to restore France's authority as an international power, especially through its military. He pursued sovereign authority of Christians in the Holy Land, basically in this time Palestine. Russia disputed France's authority and referred to treaties from 1757 and 1774. The Ottoman Empire acknowledged these treaties and declared Russia the protector of Orthodox Christians in the Ottoman Empire. Napoleon then sent Charlemagne, which was a powerful warship. Napoleon sent Charlemagne to the Black Sea, and this act in turn violated the London Straits Convention. This show of power by Napoleon urged the Ottoman Sultan Abdulmecid to accept a new treaty that confirmed France and the Catholic Church's authority over Catholic holy places. So kind of before the war started, diplomacy was employed just to kind of keep peace. So four neutral great powers, being Britain, France, Austria, and Prussia, all met in Vienna to draft peace terms for the Ottomans and Russians as an attempt to refrain from going to war. Russians accepted these peace terms, but were rejected by the Ottoman Sultan Abdulmecid because of how the terms' poor phrasing could be left to interpretation. European powers then attempted to include amendments so as to please the Sultan, but these amendments were rejected by the court of St. Petersburg, and because of this, the European powers then kind of abandoned diplomacy altogether. So the start of the war begins with the Battle of Sinop on November 23rd, 1853. A Russian convoy of 3 battleships discovered the Ottoman fleet harbored in Sinop Harbor. On November 30th, just 7 days later, Russia destroyed the Ottoman fleet, which was just a total of 11 battleships. Britain and France used this battle as an example in order to shape a public opinion that war should be declared on Russia. On the 28th of March, 1854, after Russia ignored an Anglo-French ultimatum to withdraw from the Danubian principalities, the United Kingdom and France declared war. All right, so starting with the Danube campaign, Russians lost a lot of occupation in the Danube campaign overall. Russians occupied Danubian principalities of Moldavia and Wallachia in May of 1853. In response, the Ottoman Empire also moved its forces up the river to establish strongholds in Vidin. Ottomans then crossed the Danube River at Vidin and captured Caliphate in October of 1853. Simultaneously, in the east, the Ottomans crossed the Danube at Silistra and attacked the Russians at Altenida. On the 31st of December in 1853, the Ottoman forces at Caliphate moved against the Russian force at Chitetia. Russians were then driven out of the village of Chitetia. The Ottomans' capture of Giurgiu immediately threatened Bucharest and Wallachia, with capture by the same Ottoman army. Russia had almost completely withdrew from areas surrounding the Danube River, leading the Allied forces to focus on the Crimean Peninsula, which comes to Crimea. So in September 1854, Allied forces landed troops in Crimea. The Allies landed their troops on the north shore of the Black Sea. This would be that the Allies landed about 30,000 French soldiers, 26,000 British troops, and 4,500 Ottoman troops. With the Battle at Alma, they came up to the River Alma and engaged in the Russian army. The battle lasted only 3 hours until the Russians retreated. The Russians lost 6,000 that day. After this, their plan was to head south and capture Sevastopol, a heavily fortified port city that served as the main naval base for Russia in the Black Sea. All right. So with the campaign at with the Battle of Balaclava, the Russians intended to charge British forces. There was a large Russian assault on the Allied supply base to the southeast of Balaclava. A large body of Russian cavalry charged the British unit named the 93rd Highlanders. Sir Colin Campbell, who was ordering the troops, he ordered his troops to form a single line, which was 2 men deep, to repel the cavalry, and this was called the Thin Red Line. This proved to be successful in defeating the Russian cavalry. His troops were outfitted with a new higher caliber rifle called a mini rifle, and because of this, he was confident in his troops, and they ended up being victorious. Then with the Light Brigade, they faced heavy casualties because of a miscommunication. To prevent the Russians from moving captured artillery, the Light Brigade was ordered to go in and seize them. But because of a miscommunication, the brigade was confused about which guns to seize, which led to the Light Brigade going into the valley, where they were fired upon from 3 sides by the Russians. The British Light Brigade unit they were charging the length of the valley of the Balaclava under fire, heavy fire from the Russian batteries in the hills. They were unsuccessful in defeating the Russians, but some say that they could be seen as successful, as the aim of their cavalry charge was meant to scatter the Russians and force them off the battlefield. Because then after their charge up the valley, there was an introduction of the other brigade, the British Heavy Brigade, and with their introduction, the Russians eventually fled. Moving on to Sevastopol, the Allies landed in Kerch on the 24th of May, 1855. 60 ships with 7,000 French, 5,000 Turkish, and 3,000 British troops set off for a raid on the city of Kerch. The Allies were successful and opened a new front on the Crimean Peninsula, which also cut off supplies for the Russians. With a successful assault on Memelon, the Allies attempted a follow-up assault on Malakoff, which resulted in a loss with heavy casualties on the Allies' side. Then an assault by the French army on the 8th of September resulted in the French capture of the Malakoff fort. The Russians then failed to retake it, and their defenses collapsed. Because the French took such an integral fort, and because Malakoff was just a major strong point in the Russian defenses, the Russians blew up the forts, sank the ships, and evacuated Sevastopol, fleeing north. So, with the aftermath of the Crimean War, Russia accepted peace on February 1st, 1856, after Austria threatened to join the Allies. And because of that, Russia accepted preliminary peace terms on February 1st, 1856. After this, the Treaty of Paris was signed on March 30th, 1856, which guaranteed the integrity of Ottoman Turkey and urged Russia to surrender southern Bessarabia at the mouth of the Danube. The Black Sea was demilitarized, and the Danube River was opened to all nations for trade purposes. A little fact about this war, disease accounted for a disproportionate number of the casualties lost, about 250,000 on each side. And because of this, this war kind of revolutionized the treatment of wounded soldiers because of a nurse by the name of Florence Nightingale, who saw that that disease was kind of a huge cause for casualties in the war, and this helped forge a path for later developments in battlefield medicine and as well as nursing in general. Here are my bibliography notes. Thank you.